I called somebody the other day. He did 50 million last year in business. That's a really good producer, right?
Yep.
Before he even started talking about anything, he was talking to a realtor on the other phone. So I was like, hey, what's that about? And he goes, and this agent's trying to get me this deal, and it's contingent upon the sale of another house. And he goes, do you have any ideas? And we didn't even talk about anything about coming aboard or anything. And I'm like, boom, and I raffled off 5 ideas right off the top of my head. And he goes, wow, that's a lot of good stuff. And he has kind of a country accent. He's like, well, that was really good. And
I've heard them get off of a phone call and come down to Justin's office and be like, hey, I just called this agent, trying to earn business from him, and they gave me this objection. Justin gives them a couple ideas. They go right back down to their cubicle.
Here's
and
what
they
you
call
need to
the
say.
people back. Welcome to another episode of the Contacts to Contracts podcast. I am Bryan Lovell, always here with Mr. John Jones. And today we have a super duper special guest, Mr. Justin Kelly. Justin, welcome back, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
It's crazy. We just sat down to start recording this, and I looked up, when did we have Justin on the show last year? It was January 21st, 2021. Today is January 20th, 2022. So this will air in a couple of weeks, but I just think it's pretty cool that here we are like an exact year.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Exact year later.
Yeah.
So
Felt like a century ago.
So cool. So there's a reason we bring Justin in, and John and I got some questions for you about a change that you made in your business in 2021. I'm just going to throw out a couple of stats. So in 2020, your team was 8 loan originators and 2 operations partners. Mm-hmm. In 2021, at the beginning, 12 loan originators, 5 operations partners. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of this year so far, you're at 15 LOs and 5 operations partners. Sound about right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me roll through some numbers, though. In 2021, the team, your total branch location, had a 6% increase in units and a 19% increase in volume. But your personal production went down 56% in units, and the branch still had a really significant increase in volume. Mm-hmm. So can you share with us a little bit, like, what was your strategy going into the year?
Sure. So I'll kind of explain a little bit. Like 2020, we didn't know what was happening. The world was ending again. And so, it was great to have our operations small for the fact that, hey, let's just do the loans. Let's get through the year, make money, be able to pay payroll. And then I started to lose loans. It's like, man, I'm not getting to them fast enough.
Yep.
They were just coming in,
abundance.
And go. Yeah. It's like we can only literally do so much. So I said, hey, I need to start adding some team members. And so what a perfect time for them to learn. And then going into 2021, hey, that ship kept sailing and kept going. So it's like, all right, we got the team members, they're ramped up. And my idea was that I can't connect with all the agents, right? It went from refi back to purchase. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Love purchase. That's what we've always focused on. And so it gave me an opportunity to use them as leverage, but also so they can connect with those agents and start building those relationships, because there's no way I could do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you made an intentional effort to do less loans.
100%. So yeah, year over year, I said, okay, that was great, but we literally did nothing all year, right? You couldn't go to parks, you couldn't go to movies, out to dinner, whatever.
Yeah. So what you're saying is quality of life didn't really matter.
Yeah, it was like, oh, this is all I can do right now, so if I was at work and make money, right? Yeah. So then I said, okay, and I have 2 little ones, at the time a 2-year-old and one on the way, and said I can't do all that all together and be there for my family, so what can I do to make that a little bit better? Yeah. And I was like, hey, let me add a little bit more of leverage, and we'll keep
quality
working on
of
good.
life.
Yeah. So, and I've gotten that, a little bit here and there.
Good. So let's get into the business aspect here in a second, but how, with the additional leverage, how's that changed your quality of life? Are you leaving the office earlier, or are you not working on the weekends? Like, what does that look like?
Sure. Oh, that all sounds good. No, there are times, and it kind of feels weird at first. Like, there's been a couple of nights where I go home and at 5 o'clock I've actually been done. I haven't done that in years.
Right.
And so you're like, this is weird. Let me go look at my production. Are we still closing? Oh, we still closing loans. All right. This is just weird and nice. So it's been nice to hang out with the kids and enjoy some of that time. Everybody says enjoy it while they're there because it goes quick,
fast.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
speaking from the guy whose daughter turns 16 next
Yeah,
week.
my oldest turns 18 next week. Isn't that crazy? Yep.
yeah. So it's been nice to where, on the weekends I still get referrals, and a lot of people don't know. They're like, "Oh, you just got out of the business." No, I'm still doing. People still refer me. I just might say, "Hey, I'm gonna have a team member call you," and then let them work it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the key piece right there. And when we talk to a lot of originators in our business, right, that are very successful and they do want to bring in an LO, train them, they're reluctant in many cases to help them transition into that, like the handoff and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious on a mindset, like what your approach is to that.
So you think about a few things.
Just to reassure the realtor, that contact, that they're still going to get taken care of exactly as you would take care of them if you were dealing with them.
I mean, it
directly.
starts with team expectations with my, when a team member comes aboard, here's the expectations that, I set, and this is what you need to follow.
Right.
So you build trust as they start to do deals. You kind of watch over them. You check their work. All those kinds of things. And then I have trust in them. And then I just say, hey, I'm going to have so and so call you. They're going to reach out to you and go ahead and give you a call, because sometimes I say, hey, maybe I'm in a meeting, or hey, I'm at an appointment. Right? We always say I'm in something to show that, but they want to see that. It doesn't have to be me. It has to be my expectations, and for them to see that they're taking care of it right away. Hey, I want you to get the best customer service and get a call right now. I'm going to have so-and-so call you in just a few minutes.
Yeah, cool.
And then I prep my team members. Hey, here's a lead. They know you need to call them right now, and I make sure that they can, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And how does that transition after that deal is done and it goes well? I'm curious, does that realtor then, are they calling you again and that happening, or you try to redirect, or do they start calling your team?
Sure. So some of them at first refer me, but there has been some that are like, hey, we love so-and-so. Are you okay with me? Yep. And it's like, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yes,
go for it.
yeah.
But they're like, hey, they're like you, or, I enjoy working with them, and it's perfect. And I try to set the personality, I know the agents, right? Yeah, I try to match them up there where I think they might click the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story, because we have a loan originator that we all know that went through that same experience. Like, the agent started like, hey, I'm just going to call, the other LO on the team instead of you. And of course the lead LO, the branch manager, is absolutely okay with it until they weren't. And they had an experience where the LO that they had kind of passed their relationship off to started dropping the ball. And then we realized we lost that relationship, that LO, that realtor, that team started using a different LO. And I'm just curious, like, what we uncovered through that was, hey, just because that originator is working with this agent doesn't mean you just completely go out of communication, right? And so, like, do you ever have check-in calls where you're like, hey, how is Sally treating you? How's Jimmy doing? Or anything like that?
Yeah, what I do right now is I make sure, I keep a kind of a tally of like where I've sent things, or I'll keep notes in my email, still. And then a day later, hey, I haven't heard, because I want my team to actually follow with me too, right? They should be following up, and they should be doing the same thing, because really I'm the one. It's kind of like just a keep pass down. Mm-hmm. So why don't you follow up with me? And so if I haven't heard, hey, have you touched so-and-so? Oh yeah, we're working on it now. Okay, perfect. And then I kind of know it goes from there. But I'll check in from time to time, make sure that they've contacted them, done it. And then if they haven't, it's like, guys, you need to get on it right now. Yeah. So
let me ask you a question. Let's talk about the growth of the team. So you made, coming into 2021, you made an effort. It was a part of your plan to step out of production a little bit, and you hired some new LOs. What kind of level of production like from 2020 to 2022, you've added 7. Mm-hmm. Were these like primarily rookies, or these LOs already in production? Can you paint that picture for us real quick?
Sure. Pretty much primarily rookies for the most part. Maybe a tad bit of experience, but nothing really. One was an economics major. One was coming back from Japan. COVID hit, and she had to move back. Wow. And her mom was a realtor and said, hey, and my daughter's really good with communication. Oh, key. Oh, I like people with communication skills, right? And then another one happened to be a family member of, somebody that works in our company. Okay, they're interested in our industry. And I found it was actually easier to train all of them at once than actually train one at a time, because then you're just starting over, right? Oh, I got to start all over. Hey, why don't we just do this all together? And thankfully, I had enough business coming in to where, hey, you work this one, you work this one, and you work this one. Come talk to me after you work it, and then it's like, you know, you do kind of those training sessions.
Yeah.
So with the rookies, it's important that like you pour a lot of effort into getting them ramped up, more so than probably most branch managers that bring in rookies. I mean, and speaking because we're located in the office where you have these rookies, and we overhear you and how much time you do pour in. What does that look like for you, and like how much actual time a week do you set aside for that?
Yeah, I don't know. So I set aside a certain amount of time, but they know they can always come talk to me. You know, I do have my door shut because I'm trying to, you know, build the business a little bit more too. But I always keep the door open for the most part, and they know if it's shut, hey, just, you know. But outside of that, come talk to me, come ask me questions. Hey, and they actually respect. Hey, can I come see you? Perfect. Yeah, come on in. We'll go over scenarios. We'll go over whatever they need.
You do, I mean, you bring them into the conference room here, obviously, and you do training specifically on different loan types, products, qualifying. I mean, I've seen you walk through that, so it's not, hey, here's your desk, there's the phone, you know, make some calls.
Yeah. So initially, with a couple of them all together, we had a whiteboard, a big one, and I would go through, here's the basics of all the different products. Okay, and then the next time is, let's talk about how our company gives value out there to the real estate agents and to the community. And then we take another step of how our team works, you know, and talk about the different things that they're going to talk about in trying to build their business. So I'm not going to give them all the deals. You know, they got to earn and work for some of those. So we do a lot of those trainings, and then you do learn from experience and, you know, hands-on kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Are you doing any one-on-one coaching, or is it just kind of as they need it?
It's kind of like a group. So actually I've segmented to where now my team, I just have a meeting with the LOs, and starting this year, trying something new. And so like this past week, we just had a 30-minute conversation about rates. Okay. And it wasn't really me talking. I want them to talk about it. Tell me about a scenario you just had, right? We're all having them. Let's talk about some of the conversations, and I might chime in of, you know, been in the business 16 years or on 16 years now, right?
4%, pretty darn good.
Yeah. I'm like, guys, these are pre-COVID rates, and we were busy before then. Nothing to worry about.
We were selling rates higher than this in 2018.
Right. So starting to do that, the week before we talked about what's one thing you're trying to do to add referral partners to your line. You know, what are you doing? What's something unique that you're trying to do or talk about? Right now, we're at the beginning of the year. We have great presentations about forecasting and what to expect this year. And so we've been doing a lot of that, and I'll help them. You know, if they set up a meeting, like we have one tomorrow, it's a group of agents in Tampa, and she set it up. She's like, hey, but I don't feel 100% comfortable presenting. Would you help me? Yeah, I'm there.
Yep.
So I like to be with them. I'm not just here at the top level. I like to be on the front line with them to try to help them.
Nice.
Good. I love it. Now, do you do like a weekly team meeting or anything like that, or is it just some training with the LOs?
So we used to do like a full team meeting. It's been over Zoom because there are people in different areas. Yeah. So now we segmented it. Rather than the sales and admin side, I'm just doing sales to talk about sales. And then I actually have like a TC supervisor, you know, to talk to them, and he's kind of doing some of that with them too, to kind of like segment it a little bit.
Okay.
Separate it.
Cool.
So of the 7 rookies that you hired over the last year, are they local here to you, or have you had experience trying to train and bring on a new hire that's maybe working remote?
Yeah, so I've had one that's been true remote since COVID, right? Before I would go and be with them. And so we did everything. She came from a banking background, so I guess per se taking applications in general she had, but nothing of full mortgage experience. In her first year, she crushed it.
Okay.
So 32
like
million.
32 million.
Yeah.
Crushing it.
But she was a personality that she's on it, and when she sees something, she learns it once and she remembers it, and that's really helped her excel very quickly, which I've noticed.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the local LOs, one of the things I'm guessing they're coming to the office. I mean, much as I want to highlight that again. If you're a rookie looking, a lot of people are getting licensed, getting in the business. See it on the chat groups, and they're trying to find remote, new entry level loan officer positions. Just, I mean, what are your thoughts to that, and the importance of having somebody that that is going to be a great mentor or leader for you.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is I always feel that in person, we're never going to get away with that. For one, that you can get quick answers quickly.
Yep. Correct.
Two,
Yeah.
you actually, we were talking about you overhear my conversations. You hear what everybody else, so you learn from that just by
Bingo.
sitting
That's
near
right.
each other, right? That's how I learned. I sat across from who I still work for, and I got to learn from her.
Yeah.
And you were in the office, and I would ask you questions all
Sure.
the time. So that's part of it. The other thing is I've noticed that a lot of people are doing remote, or they're not near, or it's just them, and they don't get. You try to get answers or calls quickly, and you don't anymore, and then they lose the business because they can't get some of that information
Fast enough to to hook the client.
Right. So here, quick call or quick thing. I called somebody the other day. He did 50 million last year in business. That's a really good producer, right?
Yep.
Semi-local in the state, and before he even started talking about anything, he was talking to a realtor on the other phone. Okay, and so he talked to her, said a couple things. I was like, hey, what's that about? And he goes, and this agent's trying to get me this deal, and it's contingent upon the sale of another house. And he goes, do you have any ideas? And we didn't even talk about anything about coming aboard or anything. And I'm like, boom, and I raffled off 5 ideas right off the top of my head. And he goes, wow, that's a lot of good stuff. And he has kind of a country accent. He's like, well, that was really good. And he's like, really? And I'm like, well, this is what Fanny says. And I didn't even know the guy. I gave him information, but he didn't even have the resources to go and probably find half of that, and didn't even know half of that existed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is when you're doing a lot of loans, you've seen a lot of loans, and that's where the experience comes out. And I John, like with you, I think some of the things that I see loan officers coming to you with, like I've heard them get off of a phone call and come down to Justin's office and be like, hey, I just called this agent, trying to earn business from him, and they gave me this objection. Justin gives them a couple ideas. They go right back down to their cubicle.
Here's
and
what
they
you
call
need to
the people
say.
back.
And they're like, and they a lot of times they'll come back and be like, that worked. And I'm like, I know. Yeah.
So I think, that, and obviously they'll come to you. I hear them come with, hey, like I just did this pre-approval. This is the hair on it. And, a lot of times I hear you explaining this is why it is what it is. Like you're giving them the why, not just saying, no, we can't, or yes, we can, or giving them some suggestions on how maybe we could, we can make that work. So.
Yeah. I find that my brain, and it took me a long time to do this, but I literally am able to try to work and I literally think through every scenario. As somebody's asking me a question, I'm already thinking A through H.
3 steps ahead.
Yeah. I'm already, and not only do I think of that, I also think, okay, if you're going to do that, what 2 objections or things? And so it's quite crazy how I think like that now. It's my wife probably would want me to do that on other things.
Your to-do
I'm
list,
narrow-minded when I get home. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I get that. Sometimes it gets like that.
And so, the other thing that made me think of it, you talk about people coming to the office, and so I like it because I want to make sure that they're following my expectations. I get to hear them on the phone as well. And I'm not afraid to interject after they get off, hey, you might have maybe said this way, or maybe try to reword it. Sometimes it's about the wording. Sometimes it's, the other day I was like, hey, 9:07, you should really be ready to go by 8:45.
Yeah.
And I have nicknames for him and everything. And the next morning I'm like, where are you at? It's 9 o'clock. You should be ready to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the important message if you're new to the business, right? It is a full-time job, right? A lot of people try to get in part-time, and if you are working from home, remote, it's very easy because you don't have a big pipeline, right? It's easy in the beginning to work part-time. And if you're at home, you're going to nod off at 3. You're going to go to the gym, check the dry cleaning. We know folks that do that even years in the business. But coming to the office, right? You're here, you've got to work.
Yeah. So, Justin, I'm gonna take it in a little bit of a different direction. So, right now you've got a number of LOs, but you've also had some that didn't work out. And like how easily, or what metrics, or what, maybe it's a gut feeling, what are you using to determine whether, hey, this is just never going to work out? And then, what are you doing in some of those instances?
Yeah, so I think there's been a few of they're not following my expectations of pre-approving somebody, or hey, you got to at least communicate back to me so I know, right? And the communication is not there, so kind of maybe the gut. I do look at pre-approvals. Like I had one, and I started noticing that she was literally doing nothing, and it's like, are you actually doing the right activities? Because I feel like you should do all right.
Yep.
And then she eventually said, this isn't for me. then all of a sudden COVID hit and we had the best 2 years we ever had. It's like,
Yeah.
man, if you just
You
stuck
just-
with it a little bit
You
longer.
just missed it. Yeah.
And somebody that we know very long time, still in the business, but he was working with me a long time ago, Norm.
Yeah.
And I always said you kind of have a breakdown, you have a breakthrough. Like you just feel like you're defeated, you're crushed, and it's like just give it a little bit more, and you'll probably get that breakthrough. And all of a sudden, those agents are referring you some of the business.
Yeah.
So I do look at pre-approvals, their closings, how are their activities going. I'm not afraid to say, oh, you're supposed to be going by offices and doing pop buys or this and that. Tell me where you went. Who did you go
Right.
see? What conversations you have?
Right.
Well, you didn't really have a conversation. Does that tell me that you really didn't do it? We need to talk because these are the things you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're kind of monitoring, what activities they are or aren't doing. I'm assuming you've got them on, like you've outlined for them, hey, here are the critical things I think you're going to need to do to be successful. Because you're not just like sending out deals to
Right.
everybody, right? They got to bring in their own business as well. I mean, I'm sure you're giving out some, but for the most part, they've got to bring in their own. So you're identifying what are those critical activities, and then you're making sure that they're meeting your expectations.
Yeah, so I have a preset plan of, especially like the new LOs. What are you gonna do? It's like boom, you're gonna go get signed up for this, be a member of this. You might want to start looking at a networking thing, right? It's a lot at first, but it's like you got to do these things. Let's find a couple things that are really working, and especially COVID kind of changed on how we were doing it. We were doing everything in person.
So
That
give us a
changed.
pro tip from somebody that runs a branch closing $200 million in 2021. What are the 3 to 5 things that you would have a rookie do that is probably a good way to start in their business?
I would obviously join a team, to get the experience and all the questions because you get so much. So I think that's a big piece.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I mean, if you're a new LO or you're looking for leadership, I mean, I would look to find a branch that has a manager, a sales manager that's actually going to commit and help you,
Get in production.
become better. Yeah, get into production and become better at what you do.
And interview a few of them. It's
right.
just like anything else. Like, if you go and I don't know, buy a car or something, you're going to try a few out, right? You're not just going to go
sure.
one, unless maybe, uniquely there might be one.
And I mean,
but-
maybe the shift for you, and maybe it didn't happen. But when you were super busy originating, I'm sure that it was harder for you to get back to a new LO. And now with you intentionally cutting back, it's a little bit you're pouring more of your
More
knowledge
available.
back into your rookies and team that you're available.
Yeah, and it's cool to see them grow. So I think having that role model, that experience, vet them of what kind of experience they have. I think you can easily be part of a realtor board in certain areas.
Okay.
Some I've noticed are a little bit more of a struggle than others.
Yep.
But I think that's a great tip. You got to be willing to hammer the phones. Not be afraid. You got to get your scripts in play. It's not just, oh, I'm going to call you. What am I going to say? Pre-plan what you're going to say, which obviously having that knowledgeable branch manager type person. But you got to be able to willing to hammer the phones and probably a couple hours a day until you start setting up some appointments to meet with agents. I would focus on that. I would focus on maybe even you can pull the list. Like if you're with a big branch or a big team, maybe they can pull the prior production and start calling on the agents. Not everybody is very intentional of calling all the agents. Maybe you can actually pick up some relationships of deals they've closed successfully, but maybe just never set up that one-on-one to meet with them. Yeah. And so that might give you kind of a semi-warm, lead into a one-on-one kind of thing.
Yep.
Refinancing over the last couple of years has been very good. To go door knock, kind of like what are agents doing to build business?
Yeah.
Friends and family when you first start out, like
Yeah.
life insurance. I mean, they have that need, or they certainly want to support you, right? So you've got to make sure all your friends, family, they know what you're doing, and you've got to remind them on a regular basis. So put them on some type of reminder drip campaign.
And one step further is, again, we focus on purchase, right? Like that's where the end game is. Everybody knows at least one real estate agent. So call mom, dad, brother, uncle, grandmother, everybody, even in your immediate sphere, and our phones. You have so many contacts in your cell phones.
Shoot a text, call.
That's the first place you should start hammering out of, hey, I'm in the business. Do you know a real estate agent that I can call and actually set up? And a lot of them probably know somebody kind of, fairly familiar to where, hey, my buddy's in the business. Would you be willing to meet him and see?
Yeah. Where does social media fall into that?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about social media. I think a lot of people do it. I just don't think they do it at a very high level.
Okay.
Oh, I'm doing this little video and you're wobbling or you're driving. like, okay, pay attention, drive first, like, right? But I do think that you could easily start posting, and actually, again, that's another database. Like all your friends, high school people, we all went to high school. A lot of us
Bingo.
still live in the local area, right? So, hey, you remember me? I'm in the area, and I could tell you, I got a lot of referrals because I started posting our success of rates are low, we're on fire, this, that, or however you want to. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, I might be interested in buying my next house, or actually I'm interested in buying an investment property, which makes me think of two more things. I've focused on the last couple of years on doing a lot of presentations about building wealth in real estate. I have a lot of friends that are about my age that have bought multiple properties through me, getting the mortgage because they're working on building their portfolio because that's one of their pieces to their bucket, which is amazing. But me talking about it and being knowledgeable on how to talk about it, it's opens up on how they can do it and how they can build it. The other thing, I did my MBA a couple years ago. 43 people in that class. I'm working on my 10th loan right now through that same class. So over 25%. And an MBA costs money, but now it's easy paying for itself, right?
My entry in my first year is I didn't know any realtors, right? I'm trying to door knock and meet realtors, so I decided I'm going to go to my friends. It was even before Facebook, and don't date myself, but it was a little before when we were faxing stuff. But I would go to all my friends and say, hey, it's time for you to think about buying a house. You're engaged, you're getting ready to get married. Once that got out there, by the way, I know a ton of great real estate agents, so you've got to call me first. I'll make the intro. So that's how I really flipped over to real estate and get relationships with realtors. I was getting the lead first and flipping them over. So if you're young, again, get your sphere, your friends, and that are young looking to buy and start them out.
And my wife has opened up the door to a couple agents that has been great referral partners, and it's just because I'm married to her. You're Jenny's husband? Let's talk. And it's like, okay, sure, no problem. But I think by phone, by your Facebook, maybe LinkedIn, there's a lot of sphere that you could do warm touches to before you actually even did cold calling. But I do think cold calling could help the opportunity.
Listen, when I was a rookie getting into the business, the company I went to go work for, before you could even start, you had to bring them a sphere of influence database of 150. It had to have names, phone numbers, email addresses, and physical addresses. Right? So part of what happened for me to be able to get that was I had to call some of the people and ask them for their physical address. And what it created was I had to tell them why. Hey, I'm just letting you know I'm getting into the mortgage business. This is the company I'm going da-da-da-da-da. But before I had even started in the business, I was already telling people I'm getting in by building that database.
What's the clothing company? Always makes me think of this, and they're really good at it. It's kind of like, you're a little annoying, but man, this is really, they do a lot of research. Is it Tom James? Is that the clothing company? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Quit giving them my number.
Hey, wait. This on this
Justin Kelly gave me your number.
We don't shop the fan. This is Bell's Outlet.
No, but somebody turned me onto them, and I'm gonna give everybody else's name. Like, they're gonna experience it too. But they would come to you and say, they would look at your social media and say, hey, out of these 20 people, who is it that I can reach out to that might be interested in our clothing line? And it's like, well, this person might have died, or this, that, and the other. But call this person; they might be interested. And it always makes me think they do research on you, which I think you could easily do research on, real estate agents and other people who knows who kind of thing. So it makes me think a lot of that. And have a list and be prepared. They're prepared when they come to you, not only for the sale of you, but where's my next sale?
So Justin, as we just started 2022, have you shifted strategies or anything like that for where you want your business to go in the new year?
So I've worked on, obviously we talked about pulling out because I want to give more into the team, help build them, and help them build the referral partners. And then my next strategy is working on adding to our core and adding loan officers. And by doing the things that I've been doing over the last 2 years, and I'm very thankful to be able to do it, but now I can show that there's been a proven strategy to actually, get to that next level. What does that next level look like? And then here's the things you got to do. You just got to be willing to do them. And boom,
That's
there you
cool.
go.
So I watched the podcast that we shot a year ago this morning.
Okay.
And because there were some stats I wanted to pull off of it. But the very first 2 minutes of the podcast, what you said was, there's no silver bullets in this business. You said people are always trying to reinvent themselves or create some new way of doing that. And you said that I've never had to do that because I never stopped doing the core activities.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Mic drop. And I haven't, because I've always heard that before in other loan officers. Oh, I got to reinvent myself. No, you don't. If you didn't stop doing the same things you always know to do, and like I made the comment to my team, it's not sexy, right?
No,
a lot of
same
these things.
It's actually boring.
I think the mundane part of it is why people want to start something. Maybe there's a quicker, easier way to go get more realtors.
Oh my gosh,
but
it's like, come on, it's
don't
now there-
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, don't reinvent it. There's nothing, and if you continue to keep your reputation up, it'll continue to help you grow into business and opportunity.
I think I heard somebody say once that success is boring, and the reason success is boring is because success comes from doing the same behaviors and activities over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And they get bored because they're like, "What's next?" And that's
Yes.
that's where I'm at. It's like, "What's next? What can I do? What can push me, and what can challenge me? You know, to a certain degree."
So, man, is there anything you?
I've got a question though.
Okay,
What's your
perfect.
what your vision like? I mean, so 15 loan officers. I'm sure 2022 you're going to end the year. Do you have a target? And what, like your three? Do you have a 3 to 5 year plan? And if you're out there listening, I mean, this is an incredible guy, incredible mentor and leader. If you're looking to make a change, get with him.
I'll pay you later. So I do have a couple year plan of obviously adding more loan officers to the team, and there might even be branches that might come aboard for the mindset we just talked about. How can I help them get to the next level? And I might be able to help them with that leadership and that guidance.
That's awesome.
And then there's going to be some shifting. So the team structure, the way it is now, might look a little different if we were to add, 3 to 5 loan officers in a year, depending. I do have offices in a few other cities and one in another state. I've been working on trying to find a loan officer in North Carolina. So my next thing is expanding, doing the expansion model, and how does that work like? And, if you can build relationships while you're trying to find that person, now once I get that person, I can basically, all I'm doing is doing the same thing in different places. Yeah. So that's, and then you have,
you have the relationships in North Carolina right now, don't you?
I have a few, yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And it's, it's not easy. I talked to one guy, and I was at an event and started chatting with him, and he's in the mortgage industry, and he's like, "Yeah, man, everything's going really well." I'm like, "That's awesome. That's cool." And I'm like, "Well, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I think I feel like I'm just, doing amazing. I'm doing $1 million a month." I'm like, "Oh, cool. That's good.
Yeah,
That's right."
good numbers.
His next comment was, "I think I'm ready to take on another state or many. I need to work with a lender that is licensed everywhere." And I'm like, don't you want to work a little bit more on where you're at now? Like, that's great. You're doing amazing, but how about focus here before you
in your backyard?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it makes me think that I've done it really well, and then, now you go from there.
Yeah, that's great. Man, is there anything you wish we'd have asked you or you'd like to share?
I think a lot of it has to go with listening to a lot of leaders, right? I'm not the smartest guy out there. I just listen to what people have to say, and I truly implement it. I read a lot. I've been reading a lot of books. I actually watched a kind of like a podcast like this of another loan officer that's extremely successful, and he didn't really share too much about how his business is done, but it was also what are those other activities. And he wakes up at 4:00 every morning. Like, that's early. Okay, I thought getting up at 6 was early, but then he would go through. He has a 2-hour thing. And then he actually hangs out with his kids for an hour. Then he gets to the office and then starts his day. And I mean, very
dedication,
successful.
yeah.
It's very dedicated. So one of his things is he reads for about 30 to 45 minutes. I said, okay. And I've been wanting to read books. Like, we're all very busy. So it's like, how do you add these things? And so I've been starting to wake up between 5 and 5:15 every morning. I read for 15 to 30 minutes, depending on when I wake up, right? Yeah. Then I go to the gym, and then I do that. But by doing that over the last 3 months, I'm on my 5th book.
Nice.
I should have looked at this one. It's like this thick. I'm like, this one's gonna take me a while. But so I go back to like Jeffrey Gittermore had a couple of books. One of them is called Get Shit Done. I think his books are very easy to read.
Yep, they are. Yep.
Reading this latest one gave me like 4 different books on creativity to actually start reading. And so when you read one, you start getting information and leads on others. So I mean, reading a lot of business books, but it's been allowing me to get that done.
Well, listen, I say all the time, like if you're not actively growing, you have less to offer those around you, right? And so you're a business leader that's got a growth mindset that for your business, you got places that you want to go. Well, to be able to do that and to attract talent into your organization, you're going to have to continue to have ways to add value to them. And you're learning how to do that through the podcast and the reading and everything like that. So kudos to you, man.
Yeah. And in that Get Shit Done book, it's pretty entertaining, but he gets right to the point. If you think about it, he's like, why watch TV? What else could you get done? People go home and you're right. You do family dinner and all that kind of stuff. By the way, I do family dinner almost every night.
Good for you.
And then I might work after that or whatnot. But he was like, if you take out the hour or 2 hours you would watch, we were joking earlier, before this, Netflix and all right, you got.
I might watch Ozark tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But if you were to take out doing that every single night and you replaced it with reading a book or spending an hour getting prepared for your activities the next morning, how much more could you get done and how much more productivity would there be? So that's, it's an aha, like duh moment.
Yes.
And I would say the other thing is it's all about relationships in this business. Don't burn a bridge. You might lose some deals. Rates are going to change. You can't do anything about rates. All you can do is about the activities that you're doing. And then, if you do all those things and keep building relationships, then you can end the day every day knowing you tried to crush it.
Yeah. Dude, nice work,
Awesome
bro.
stuff, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah,
Good job,
thank
man.
you.
Great year.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Context to Contracts podcast. On behalf of Justin Kelly and John Jones, I'm Bryan Lovell, and collectively we want you to know if there's anything you need, we're always here to serve.